Mantra meditations are interesting because if you look at spirituality and religion across the course of time, they're all heavy on mantras. The purpose of the mantra, it's not what you're saying, right? It's that focus on one thing that allows you to dial into the present moment and clear the mind and like allow you to unify with consciousness. Yeah, we're back the next day.
Here's a hard session.
13th, and we're doing a middle of the day pod. So yeah, drinking just doesn't feel right yet.
Doesn't feel right,
I'm
even though it is a
drinking
Thursday.
Key lime LaCroix.
Those are really good.
Really good.
But they're too good where I worry about what's in that. It tastes like a Starburst,
essence.
The Wait But Why guy, Tim Urban.
Yeah, I
posted
saw
on
that.
Instagram just recently. He's like,
Just today.
something about this, like 50
All the
years from now is
seltzers.
gonna,
Yeah.
things that were actually terrible for
Yeah,
you.
so the context is what are the things that we hear a list of things we used to eat that we now frown upon, right? Do you remember any of the examples?
No, it was fruits, current
Yeah.
day fruits that have been genetically modified to become sugar bombs, is what he said.
We're just,
grapes.
we're just
Yeah,
guzzling like carbonic acid, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what this
One
is.
would think.
And he said one of the things
Doesn't sound
today,
good when you put it that way.
like his guesses would be these seltzers, fruit juices, stuff like that.
Well, fruit juices are obviously just like liquid diabetes. Everybody knows that.
Pretty much.
Bless my mom's soul. She should just force feed us orange juice. It's just straight liquid sugar.
That key lime one, though, in particular, is literally reminds me of a Starburst.
The craziest one is the limoncello one.
Yeah.
It's
That one's too much for me.
so good.
Too much.
Oh, it tastes like I'm drinking. It's amazing.
Yeah. So we're here. We're here to talk about meditation, which has come up so much in our Discord, in the community. We've touched on it here and there in episodes, but this one definitely deserves a deep dive into the gray, explore this topic, and kind of I think the overall structure will be just what, why, and how. And before we dive in, definitely head to our socials. So we had a video. Sounds weird when I'm explaining it because I'm the one in the video. I don't want to be the one explaining this. But so we had a video recently. Our best performing video is from the Iran episode. And as of today, it posted yesterday, I think it's got like 73,000 views on Instagram, which is pretty amazing. So we post clips to Instagram, YouTube. We actually even have a TikTok.
We have a TikTok?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So all those links, all those links are at alfalfapod.com. And I think it's like a good gateway drug to Alfalfa, you know, for maybe you're the listener or the watcher listening. But if you want to introduce people to Alfalfa, you could just send them our socials.
Here's a snack.
Yeah.
Have a few snacks throughout the day.
I had a friend tell me this morning. He's like, I just binge the clips. I love the clips.
I have a few friends that like, I don't listen to the podcast, but I watch all the clips. And I was like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
I'm okay with that. I'll accept it.
No, they'll come along on the journey. They'll come along.
They're
on the
not
journey
getting the full, the full meal, but
We'll go for the hard upsell later.
exactly. So alfalfapod.com or which is below in the show notes below. Follow us up on the socials. And then, of course, we have the full episodes YouTube channel and the clips channel. And that's going really well, too. Okay. Meditation.
Yeah, should we do the whole podcast in like a Sam Harris voice?
Should we start with an ohm?
So
No.
Armand,
If everyone wants to fall asleep,
Hold on.
listen.
Let me hear Steven Sam Harris.
I don't know
This
how
is
to
going
do
to be
Sam
so
Harris
good.
voice.
Oh, damn it.
He just sort of pauses for dramatic effect or to think. Now, Armand, I hear that you're a big meditator.
Hold on. Can you do his opener? You know his opener when he starts the way he starts the pod? Okay.
Everyone.
Okay.
Every single pod. The first time I heard that, I was like, wait, is this his thing? Like, it's a thing. Okay.
I don't
So-
like my Sam Harris. Is at my.
I actually
Jordan
like your
Peterson
Sam
level.
Harris. Yeah. Well, your Jordan Peterson is really good.
Somebody else told me they liked a random impression I did the other day. I forgot who it was. It just like
Man.
comes out of me spontaneously.
I think Eric just started using the Sam Harris app. I know we're fast forwarding.
Oh,
it
really?
out, but yeah, since he's not here, might as well mention that. I think when we
Waking
were
up?
Yeah, when we were hiking with David on in the Pacific Northwest, the
Yep.
Olympus Mountain Range.
Oh.
He was afterwards. He was dabbling with the with the Waking Up app.
Oh, okay.
I've never tried.
Yeah,
We
I do
talked
remember
about
that coming up.
in the
That's a
house.
good one. It's a good one. All of these gateways are good. Calm, Headspace. Most people start there. I think it's a great place to start.
Well, but before we get into the tools, maybe tell the audience what is meditation?
Look, I'm not a guru, and
Get a guru
I don't.
beard.
What is meditation?
Your beard
I
is
don't. I
very
don't.
guru.
I don't like the question
I don't know. You look
being
you
asked
look
of me.
Pretty,
So I'll tell you what I.
Armanananda, Guru Armanananda.
when you are like 86, you are gonna be so guru.
Do you imagine?
It's gonna be unbelievable. You're gonna be walking around with a stick.
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna
a
have a stick.
flowy
I already have the stick
robe,
picked out.
A beard like all the way down to your.
Do you
knees.
imagine Dumbledore?
I keep seeing like Sadhguru.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I'm going to wear that long gown, but okay.
Or maybe that government
Should I
for
change
the
my
people.
voice too?
of the people, by the people guy.
Osho.
Osho, yeah.
So suddenly I'm like an Indian guy in your mind, like an old Indian man.
Yeah,
You'll just
basically.
lump all the brown guys
Sage-like.
together.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, Stephen. Jesus. So, okay. What is it? I think just like anything in life, it's something different to each person. And different people arrive at different conclusions and different levels of utility from this practice, this ancient practice. And there's something for everyone. I think that's the most beautiful thing about it. I do tend to think that there is a definitional, objective truth to what the intent of meditation is. And I think many people get that wrong. But that doesn't take away from the benefits that a person might receive the way that they do it. So what am I saying? Like in the United States, in the Western world, Australia, Europe, UK, most of the Western world looks at meditation in a pretty similar way. It's there to it's like a brain hack to most people. It's a brain hack. It's a way to reduce stress. They measure the benefits of it objectively and empirically. It's a way to clear the mind. It serves it is not, if you guys recall when I introduced that idea of the word autotelic. It is not an experience. You had the same reaction the first time. Autotelic, like
glad
something
I'm
that you do. You're so consistent.
This is not an act, folks.
I actually don't remember.
Yeah. So, I was talking about, what were we talking about? It was basically related to,
Downside of drinking during the pods.
yeah,
I'm sober.
We were talking about, it was the
will
meta
remember
learning
things,
episode.
maybe. Oh,
so the
that was a
meta
good
learning
one.
episode, you guys were talking about learning has to have an outcome. And my argument was that learning for the sake of learning and for the experience of learning is enough in and of itself. And meditation to me is something similar. It's autotelic. The process of meditating itself is the means to an end.
But isn't that definitionally an outcome?
I don't think so. No, that's
I
not
don't
an
know.
outcome. It's a
Seems
state.
Seems like an infinite loop trap.
Well, yeah, it could be, but that outcome is not that it's a means to a different end.
Okay.
In other words, you don't meditate in order to X. You meditate in order to meditate. And we can get into that. But that's just the kind of like the first layer there.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would apply the definition of it's a practice or a process in which you're trying to become aware that you're aware. Or, other people say just become conscious. And it's that moment where we all have it sometimes. You're like, I'm aware that I'm aware of my mind right now and what it's doing. Like I'm aware of what's going on. And I can see that I'm the watcher of everything going on. Like I'm the watcher of what's going on in my brain. I'm the watcher of what's everything, going on or outside me. And so there's all different types of meditation, but the things that come, most common for me when meditating is it's just a process of becoming aware of like what thoughts are going on, what physical sensations are happening, what's listening outside, and without the goal of like trying to stop those thoughts, right? You're not trying to stop those thoughts. You're not trying to interrupt them or judge them or even stop feelings of uncomfortableness or pain while you're meditating. You're just being aware that they exist, almost like clouds passing in the sky. There's a thought that comes and you just let it go. And you often find that when you fight a thought, it sticks with you the whole time. But if you
That's
can
kind of the
accept it
first
past-
lesson, right? It's
Yeah.
like when you first start meditating, you think that you're supposed to quiet your mind. No,
No,
you're going to
not.
be in a hell of a lot of pain and struggle if all you're trying to do is quiet your mind, stop thinking, stop thinking, stop thinking. That's
Or
what most people
I used
do.
to be like, man, I had a terrible meditation session. Right. My mind just wouldn't stop going.
Same. I used
it
to
was
think the same.
nonstop. And I was like, oh, at least I was aware the whole time that it was just running circles around in my head. And there is no good or bad. It's neutral. And that will come up more as we talk about like what the, why you would want to do meditation. But to me, that's what it is. And that process could be different things. It could be sitting on a meditation pillow, in silence. It could be following a guided meditation. It could be going on a walk, like a mindful walk and meditating while you're walking. I remember I went to, there's actually this place called the Zen Center. It's actually in North County. And one of the things when I showed up to the Zen Center to just check out what it was, there were people in the backyard doing chores when I showed up. And I was like, what's going on? Is this like cult thing? They're putting the people to work to like,
Sounds like a good
maintain the
scam,
facility.
yeah.
I was like, what a great scam. And then they were like, no, they're doing meditation. He's raking the leaves. He's only raking the leaves. Like
This
he's
is very big in Zen.
just being aware that he's raking the leaves, and that's it. He's not thinking about something.
When was the
else.
last time someone did something? Most of us did something, and that was the only thing we were doing and the only thing we were focused on, thinking about.
Oh God, I'm
So
constantly asynchronously
Yeah.
running.
Most people don't just do the dishes.
Right. You just do the dishes. and
Yeah.
that's it.
That's meditation in motion, right? Something that I think people get wrong is that they look at meditation as an activity and they do it and they try to do it right. And then as soon as it's done, they hope that the benefits move their way into their daily life. But in actuality, you're trying to get yourself into a baseline reality, really. So to add a little bit to like the what it is, again, in the Western world, it's like, it's this brain hack, it's this stress relief. The best case I've heard is like, it's like to clear the mind, to get clear. And primarily, what I understand it to be is a unification with consciousness. I think that's essentially what you described. Because when you become the watcher of the thoughts, you're moving from the ego self toward the bigger self with a capital S. And when you move to that bigger self, you've become the watcher. And the watcher is that state that I described from the mushrooms episode, for example. That's what mushrooms allow you to step into, but they fucking force you into that space. Whereas if you meditate, and I've talked about being able to get there in the past through just meditation or a float tank, you can experience the same thing. But I think primarily it's that unification with consciousness.
it does transfer into, the benefits of it does transfer into when you're not meditating, like when you're going through your day-to-day life. Like I think the very first time I realized it was helping was I was just something as simple as like noticing where tension was in my body. Like when I started meditating, when I was working or walking, I would notice like maybe I had a fist clench, and I would just start to notice there was tension in my hands and I was clenching, or my jaw. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. I just noticed that I have tension in my body. And then I started noticing it all the time now. Now, like I'm constantly aware of like where tension is in my body, and that helps. Jaw
right?
all the time. Yeah.
Jaw.
for some
Where's
reason.
your tongue? Even noticing that, like dropping it.
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of times it's like up in the roof of your mouth and you're stressed and clenching it.
But that was the
That's a big
first
one.
moment I was like, oh, it's starting maybe to filter, and start to like provide some other benefits, other than
Right.
just that 10, 12 minutes, maybe you're on the, meditation pillow.
When we get into some of the how, I want to share one method that I discovered like 2 years ago that allows you to carry it over more easily and consciously into your daily life outside of the meditation. But there's one example though I want to share. Actually, before that example, another what it is, and most people, again, in the Western world don't talk about this, don't describe this, but primarily like the root of this is that it's a preparation for death. Nobody talks about that in the West. It's just the brain hack shit. But ultimately, when you become unified with consciousness, what you're really doing by stepping outside of that meat bag that Eric described in one episode, that meat bag body with an ego, is you're becoming aligned with who you really are. And I'm doing air quotes. It's like who you really are. That unification with consciousness. It's kind of like what we've done to, I don't think we've totally destroyed meditation, because I think we've extracted in the Western world a lot of good stuff out of it. It's a very Western thing to be like, what are the benefits of this? How can I extract the most value out of it? What can this help me make more money?
20 of meditating.
It's where's the alfalfa?
which we will, but like,
That's what everyone wants, but that's what we've done to yoga. And I think we've destroyed yoga. And I know, Stephen, you really like yoga. So I'm very curious your perspective on this, but like yoga in the Western world for a lot of people is just like this, and I don't think it is with your teacher. I'm excited to hear this. It's this body pretzel thing. It's like turning your body into a pretzel and sweating your balls off and like just getting some like tangible benefits. But like, what does yoga mean? Unification. It literally means to unite. So you're uniting this, I wrote this note down for myself, the individual soul which is a fraction of God inside of you, with the supreme self, which in like Hindu, it's Brahman, right? So it's the Atma and the Brahman. That's what the basis of yoga is supposed to be in the Eastern world. And some teachers, I think, get to this space well and create a spiritual practice out of it, but others just do the body pretzel thing. What's your experience with yoga, Stephen?
So I did yoga in Bali once, and it was nothing like yoga here. But it was like I do yoga to exercise. I don't do yoga to like it was really awkward. Like we brought in like a yoga teacher thinking we were gonna like kind of like work out, and then just for like an hour he was just like inhale, exhale.
But it's focused on
I
the.
swear to God, we
It's
just
on
did
the
that
union
for,
part.
It was
the
just
union of
all
mind and body, right?
breathing. It was all there were like a couple stretchy things, but it was just mostly just breathing.
So for people that are curious about this, and we listened to this episode in the car on the way to Joshua Tree, but Sadhguru, who you think I'm going to become, on Joe Rogan, described all of this in like great detail. And he's an actual, yogi. And I think for people that are curious about it, go listen to that episode of Joe Rogan, because he describes the fact that like we do this body pretzel thing and there's too many movements in the West. And really, you're supposed to basically hold one pose for like an hour and breathe and connect with and create unification. But we've turned it into something else. And that's just, I share all of that to say like, there's something deeper here. It's not here in the brain. It's in this higher self. And I think that's where we get a lot of it wrong, at least.
You mentioned earlier that you don't necessarily think there's like a goal in doing it. It's autotelic. But I do think there are like goals of a spiritual journey, and meditation is a very, key component of that. And when you start talking about like spiritual journeys, I think people get a little woo with it, but and it definitely clashes with like the type A type personalities, the goal of a spiritual journey and type A-ness. And I've, you guys both know this, but I listen to a lot of Michael Singer on audiobooks. I've mentioned this book on the podcast. I can't recommend enough. It's called The Untethered Soul. It is
one of the best ever.
One book that has continued to provide dividends past reading it.
Could you give me the 80-20 of it?
No. Thank you.
I want you to go
well
fucking
done.
read it. Yeah.
No. God damn it, Stephen.
I'm just going to find it on Blinkist.
No.
Listen to the audiobook, and I'll say that like I read it, and then I listened to the audiobook full 2 times. And now whenever I'm in a state of high anxiety, stress, I will go to any part of that book and I'll throw it on and I'll use it to my walk to work or when I'm walking the dog.
Tap right in. 15 minutes of it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. And one of the things, and I just realized he published a new book this year, and I would definitely recommend reading. I heard from Jason; it's incredible.
I had this conversation with Jason 2 days ago, and we spent an hour just talking about.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
What I was going to bring up.
Oh shit.
And so what I wanted to bring up was this idea of Michael Singer's like goal of a spiritual journey, and it clashes with Type A mind. So I want to hear what you guys think about it. his thing is that, one of the problems of the mind is it's always trying to solve problems, right? Problems of the external world. I need a significant other. I need to get in a relationship in order to be happy. I need to break up with my significant other in order to be happy. I need to make X amount of money. I need to get this job. If only I got this job, then everything will be okay. And what you're doing is like setting your mind on this like endless goal of please manipulate the outside world, please sort out the outside world in order to make things perfectly so that I can be at peace. And then your mind says, okay, I will do that constantly. I will do it without you asking. I will do it even when you tell me to stop. I will constantly sort out the outside world to try to get you at peace. And what he says is the goal of a spiritual journey is to get to the place where you don't work on the outside world. You work on yourself. So let's say something happens in life, it makes you very scared and maybe frustrated. He's saying a spiritual journey is spending the time working on yourself to not be frustrated, to not be scared. Almost to the point, this is kind of where it crosses, and for me, where it crosses into Stoicism, where you kind of view all these
stoic.
events as neutral. Something happened. It was neither good nor bad. It just happened. Almost to the point where you wake up, all these events happen, you live through them fully, you give them your full attention, and then you go to sleep. And that's kind of like life. You wake up, you go through these events, they happen, and then you die. And for a type A personality, we're like, well, no, I have goals. I have things I want to accomplish. And I am going to manipulate the world. I'm going to like do these objectives and do this work every day to accomplish it. But I do think for extreme type A's, it's good to have a balance of like understanding when events happen, putting a little balance on working on yourself and understanding, just being aware of your thoughts and what things are happening when those external events happen. And you kind of start to turn into a little stoic person where, and you see this in Navy SEALs. I mean, they are some of the most stoic people possible, and they're in the most turbulent, external environments, but they kind of get in this mode where like neither good, no bad, neutral, move on. And I've found that like over time, I've appreciated as I've started to move in that direction in business, in life, in personal relationships, trying not to get too high or too low and try to keep them, everything is neutral. It's neither good nor bad. It just is. And then what you find is that, you want to control that thing, but if you can stay neutral, you're almost in a better place to control it. I don't know if those are contradictory.
No.
But you're like, okay, I'm feeling the feeling of frustration. I am not frustrated. I'm feeling this feeling of frustration. And okay, I'm aware of it. I'm going to set it here, but this event is happening. And if you can separate yourself from that feeling, then you can kind of better attack the situation.
Well, emotional responses always fuck up every situation.
Right. So I
You
think
can't think clearly.
it sounds weird to have a goal of life where like you don't get too emotional at all, ever.
It sounds weird, but there's so much peace in it, and it's the path to true. It's the path to happiness. I always say it's like the only choice that we have, the meaning that we ascribe to the events in our life. This has been talked about since my boy Socrates first taught all of us.
The goat.
The goat. The meaning that we ascribe to the events in our life is what creates our life at all. If we can choose to not view events negatively or positively, that's where we can find peace. True peace.
But like, I also find myself, okay, if I lost money today, that's bad. Like that to me, that seems objectively bad.
It feels objectively bad.
Right.
But when you zoom out into the big picture, or again, we've talked about like how can a tragedy, a hurricane comes in your town and destroys your house.
Yeah.
How can I not look at that as negative? But there is a path, and Michael Singer describes it in great detail.
He's like, no, it happened. You're right. That happened, and that's it. That's it. There's no extra layer of judgment that gets passed. Ideally, the way you would view it is like this event happened and I need to fix it. And you put your full effort into it, fixing it without adding those extra layers of ideally of frustration, of sadness and whatnot.
I want to actually unpack it a little bit more because Michael Singer is just the latest, greatest teacher of bringing Eastern ideas to the Western world. He's so good. But he is standing on the shoulders of people like Eckhart Tolle Eckhart Tolle is very specific in his teaching that it is our inability to accept life and the present moment that creates our suffering. That, I've said this before, it's like most people view every situation in life as like an obstacle. That's the best case. The worst case is that they turn it into like an evil villain in their life. And the present moment ends up becoming this like, this torturer of you, because everything that happens you're in conflict with. But imagine what life would look like if you accepted the present and it became your friend. Imagine how much peace and happiness you could find if no matter what happened, you accepted radical acceptance of the present to make it your friend. Before that, Alan Watts, one of my heroes, great mystic from the Western world who brought Eastern mysticism. What did he do? An extremely well-educated man. Did the same thing. But where does all of this begin? It begins with the Buddha. What did the Buddha say? Life is suffering. Okay. Why did the Buddha say that? Most people don't understand that. They think the Buddha said life is suffering because life just sucks.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
That's what they think. Everyone thinks, oh yeah, you go through life, there's poverty, there's hurricanes, you lose people, and then you die, right? Like that's why life is suffering. No. That's the way he hooks you. The way the Buddha pulls into the teachings is to say life is suffering. It's an acknowledgement of your experience of reality.
Wait, is this the original clickbait?
Kind of, dude.
It's a great hook.
Kind of, yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's a great hook. I don't want to like click on that.
Life
I'm like,
is
I don't want.
suffering. Click.
It's
is
an
what you
acknowledgement.
probably thought I was going to say.
But it's an acknowledgement, right? For people that are not in the position of the watcher, life is suffering because what happens is an event takes place, you identify with the event, you become lost in the event, and you become lost in the emotional turbulence and meaning of that event. And then therefore, you suffer. You feel anxiety, you feel depression, you feel sadness as a result of that event. What the Buddha explained is that as you begin to meditate and become the watcher, you begin to realize the actual truth of reality, that these events are taking place, have been taking place for as long as there has been a universe, and they will continue to take place. But it is your mind, your perception of these events that creates the meaning. That is one of the great purposes of meditation.
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but you brought up a quote that I read. It might have been one of the Stoicism kind of original writers, but the idea that most suffering is imagined. Like most of the suffering that you have throughout your life is imagined in your head, or at least it circles around in your head. It's not from the actual events. It's from pouring on anger, and then from anger comes more sadness, and then sadness comes more anger. And I try to remember that quote often as I'm like, when I find myself, I'm like, why? I've just been sitting here for 7 minutes thinking about this thing, like yelling at this situation in my head. I'm like, I'm creating it myself.
Right.
Yeah. I could just stop and then move on with the day.
100%. That's actually what I like about, even though we get a lot of things wrong about meditation in the Western world, what I like about it is it's like a form of clickbait. It's like good marketing. It's like, if you meditate, you can decrease your stress by 37%. Actually, if that gets people in the door, great.
I mean,
you got to start somewhere.
There are certain, I mean, I've noticed it in business because like every day something fucking breaks, right? It just, something goes wrong, or every week something does. And the time it takes for me to like, okay, something's wrong, to just let's fix it is shortened so much. Like I don't even feel, I try not to feel, I should say. I try not to feel the pissed off, confusion, frustration of who did what, or who fucked up, or why did this happen, to just solve the problem. And I think maybe it comes from a little bit of meditation practice, maybe.
I've noticed it. Like I literally have watched you. I don't know if you've noticed this, Stephen, but like I've watched you become less reactive to things in business. And it's clear that you're like intentionally focused on that. And you have to be in order to do so, because if you freak out about every dollar lost or every mistake made, I mean, your life becomes so turbulent. It sucks. And I can watch you like but you know what? That comes at a trade-off as well. You can't celebrate the good shit as much as you used to because your goal is really just to stabilize, right?
Right.
And that's hard for people.
And it sounds boring, like, oh, you're going to become a boring person, but it's there. I think there's more peace in that process. You know, it's a good trade-off in my mind.
You know who I would love to have him on the pod as well, and we will, I'm sure. Gary V. I have a hot take about Gary V.
Love the confidence.
Oh, of course. What do you think we're here for? Fucking.
I'm just gonna put it like a days without Gary V sign.
Is this like a construction
Is that to
site,
motivate
days
me?
without
It's
injury?
the opposite.
Is that to motivate me? All right. That dude exercises everything that we just talked about. If you actually give him the time of day and listen to him, he talks about exactly what we're saying. But he's not the philosophical type.
Yeah, because listening to him is the opposite of meditation.
He's a
for me.
practitioner.
It's just so grind. This is like grind porn.
Sure. But I think he got the message that is not good. And he shifted the message.
Did he?
Oh, yeah. Like a couple years ago, he shifted the grind message. But I think if he was sitting right here, right now, here's my hot take. And I said, Gary, do you intentionally look at everything that happens in your life as neither good or bad because that is a basic philosophy of joy and happiness for you? He would say, absolutely yes. He does not, get down when there's these failures. And that's why I think his ability to like be such a successful businessman occurs because he sees this bigger vision and he's in love with the process. He talks about that all the time. So what is that? It's being in love with the process literally means you're not outcome oriented. It's autotelic. He's an autotelic businessman, right? It's like he's just like any great athlete. Look at Kobe Bryant. What was the story he was always telling? Loving practice just as much as the game. That's where it's at. I think people that learn how to do that and embrace the suck, those are the ones that you see this like mental strength and stability that other people don't have, that are overly attached to the win and the outcome. So let's go into some of the how.
Yeah.
How?
Curious what you guys do.
So
Well, I do nothing. So
I'd say it goes in waves. And when it's in a very disciplined wave, let's say. And I don't think you have to do it every day or in a certain frequency. Like you don't have to. You could just do it when you feel like you need it. But anyway, I typically do it before bed. So 10 minutes, use Insight Timer. There's guided meditations on Insight Timer. It's an app. There's a guy named David G, which I don't know for some reason.
Love him.
Oh, dude, his meditations are fire.
He has a goatee voice.
He had a great voice.
is he Australian?
No,
No?
he's American, but I actually think he's an Encinitas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. He's up
That
there,
makes
huh?
sense. They're very meditative up there.
Oh,
Yeah.
very.
So
But he talks like this.
he's got a great voice.
Yeah.
I like that Michael Seeley guy. You ever heard him? Oh, it's great. He just talks people to sleep and stuff on YouTube, and he's also like Australian.
Oh, okay.
So
I have an Australian man fetish.
Here are we?
No, it's like not that Australian.
Okay.
Like sexy Australian.
All right.
All right. Well, maybe we
All
should
right,
let
I'll
you
stop
go on
now.
with this. I don't know.
Steven, how do you meditate? I listen to sexy Australian men.
So that at night, sometime in the morning though, I just usually in the morning I'm ready to go. Like I work out, coffee, ready to hit the day. I don't know if I want
It's
to.
not really the time for you.
It used to be, but not
Yeah.
anymore. If I do something in the morning, I do like Tony Robbins priming.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to see it, it's like 12, 14 minutes. You can go on YouTube. It walks you through it.
Yeah. Priming.
Priming. Yeah. It's a very
Just making it clear for
it's a
people.
very active
Yes.
meditation.
Yeah. We've done it together a few times.
They're done a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I think it's super.
Priming is for type A people.
Yeah. If you want to do meditation for
Extract maximum value.
you will. Yeah.
You guys are like already making me feel so bad about myself.
Oh, stop
I
it.
have days sometimes where I just like roll out of bed. I don't even put on a shirt. I don't shower. I just like pop over my laptop, sit on the the charts, and then like 4 hours go by. My dog's peed himself. Like it's so bad.
Oh my God.
Postmates is on its way.
Yeah.
But more often I've been doing kind of like the intraday meditation where it's not like if you want the meditative benefits but don't want to sit down and meditate for 10 minutes, like you can do like the active movement type meditation.
So do you believe in this idea of, a lot of people say a certain type of activity is meditative? Do you feel that
Yeah, I mean,
like can you wash the dishes and it be meditative? Can you go
Usually
exercise and go
walking
for a
is
jog or walk
walking is
and it
the
be
easiest.
meditative?
Yeah, walking the dog. I mean, Muay Thai is the most meditative just because it's out of pure necessity and saving your life. You can't do two things at once. You can only try to stop getting hit in that scenario.
Art is art.
Yeah, art certainly in certain flow
Painting?
states. Yeah, when you're in the flow for sure. But walking and like that might look like something like just as you're walking, be aware of like your foot hitting the ground, like your foot rolling off the ground from your heel to your toes. Are you putting more weight on one side or the other? What's the tempo? And not trying to change it, just again being aware of it, and then feeling like your surroundings. What does it smell like? What does it sound like? And just focus on the awareness of walking. So I like that sometimes. I will say, if you want the 80-20 hack, the float tank, the sensory deprivation tank.
I did a float tank for the first time a couple weeks ago, and like I felt like such a loser. I couldn't like get into it. I was just sitting there, and I just couldn't stop thinking about, oh my God, is my head going to drift into the wall?
No,
oh my
that's-
God, is my head
that's
gonna drift into the wall?
literally-
It's like all I could think about.
That's literally most people for 3 to 5 sessions.
I have to do it 5 more times before it even works.
No, you should do it all the time because the benefits are so great.
Are they though?
I think like if you did one meditation I think it's like worth 2 weeks worth of meditating.
It can be for sure.
When I've got
If you want to rip that part of the brain that's like overly worried and thinking about your positioning and all the stuff you're talking about, smoke some weed.
and then
right
go in the
before-
float
yeah,
tank. Oh
yeah.
boy,
It's awesome. It's awesome.
what would Buddha say about that?
So I've talked about how I've had psychedelic experiences like the mushrooms. One of the psychedelic meeting God experiences in my life was my very first time at the float tank. I wrote about it. I wrote a blog post
You
about
did
it.
your
I could
first
pull up.
time? You
First
just told me I had
time.
to do 5 times.
No. But I smoked and blasted off. And I've mentioned that's already very psychedelic for me, that I'm sensitive, right, to weed, to cannabis. Got in the float tank and blasted off. But if you don't use any substance like that, which most people don't, I just think it takes a few times to get comfortable with, like, most people are worried, like, can I open the door? It's really dark. Like, am I going to be okay? Am I going to get locked in here? Like, they're
I
analyzing.
was never scared. I was just,
Not getting there.
I just
Huh.
have a lot of thoughts.
Armand, have you ever done any meditations with mantras?
Yes.
Oh, well, I
Yes.
guess David G has quite a few. of
David
those.
G does
Isn't
does
that the
do
thing
that.
Tim Ferriss like was shilling.
Transcendental
Transcendental,
meditation.
yeah.
I have
What
I have a
is
bone to pick with that.
Oh,
man, it's funny as you get older.
I don't even know what it is. I
you
just
just
know
say
you say like a word or something.
well, you just say things that you've heard like old people say. I have a bone to pick with
That
that
really
one.
grinds my gears.
I love that one.
Yeah.
So the bone I have to pick with transcendental meditation is that it's they're charging money for it. They charge money to give you a personal mantra.
Oh, really?
And it's all these celebrities. It's almost like the Scientology of meditation.
Yeah, it feels weird.
Dude, it's
I
super
didn't know they
weird.
charged money.
It's
It's
gated.
Like $1,500 or something.
It's gated. They give you a personal mantra, but you got to pay for it.
Okay.
What the fuck? There's
Real-
enough free mysticism out in the world. You don't need to pay for someone to give
Here
you
we
a
go.
mantra.
Om Shanti Ananda.
Go see God after that. There it is.
That's the mantra. Like
Yeah.
I like that one the best. And like,
So ridiculous.
yeah, use that one.
I feel like I worry actually about the people in that.
How much do they charge? How much should I have
I
charged
think
for
it's
that?
$1,500.
What?
Dude, I think it's 2,500.
Are you kidding me?
Why?
Well,
Inflation.
Inflation, yeah.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars for
Dude,
2,
it's
3
just
words?
like it's kind of. I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about it other than it costs money and they give you a mantra and it's you repeat the mantra. But why? Like why? Why is it so cult like? Why charge for that? And then I guess I go, okay, maybe it's just a business. Fine. Is it a nonprofit though? It's kind of weird. I don't like it. So yeah, I have done mantra meditations, but you can just fucking look one up.
Yeah.
You can make it up. Mantra meditations are interesting because if you look at spirituality and religion across the course of time, they're all heavy on mantras. The purpose of the mantra, it's not what you're saying, right? It's that focus on one thing that allows you to dial into the present moment and clear the mind and like allow you to unify with consciousness.
Yeah,
That's really
when you do the
purpose.
mantra, you're not actually saying it out loud. You're just repeating it in your head and then being aware of how it transforms through the 10, 15 minutes you're repeating it. Like sometimes it gets shorter and longer and morphs and gets louder and quieter and just go through that process. And then random thought just comes in and then you can like try to gently go back to it.
Yeah, and David G, which is spelled David J.I. on Insight Timer, a lot of his contain a mantra in the meditation. So for those that like want to find out, would I do well with mantra meditation? Like go to those. Yeah, he's fantastic. So some
else
of
you
the
got?
some of the like how to, I think guided is great. I personally really like guided, but it is sort of like, I guess at first I was like, that's also very Western. But then I was thinking, I was like, but everybody needs some kind of teacher. And if you're not going to be able to like walk into a, Tibetan, or go to the
Temple.
Zen center or temple and have somebody guide you, which is most people don't have access to that. Well, that's why we have the internet. That's why we have apps. It makes this stuff accessible, which is great. You have infinite access to teachers on apps and YouTube. So I think it helps you get going. And so, honestly, like people hate on Calm and Headspace. I prefer Calm. I think it's a great introduction to meditation. Helps you get going, helps you understand some of these like basic things. These days for me though, unguided with sound is my preference. Just having some soundscape that allows me to tune out to tune in other words. And I had an experience with, I kind of did a deep dive on Tibetan Buddhism a couple years ago. And I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly because, everybody says it differently, but it's Dzogchen, but it's spelled D-Z. You guys have probably seen the word D-Z-O-G. Dzogchen, the meditation style is super unique. So basically what I have done now for a long time, and I think you do something similar, Nick, is I light a candle and I kind of have like a space. I think it's important to have that, like, just like when I come here, I ground and I do this meditation. But with this style of meditation, it's eyes open. And you don't have to close your eyes. And my maybe poor explanation of why they say this is because this idea of like closing your eyes and trying to get yourself to go to this place doesn't integrate well with life. And so their whole purpose is to say every single moment is an opportunity for meditation. This recording of this podcast, the walking, those moments that we're trying to be conscious and meditative, we need to remove the boundaries of the meditation practice, but we still need to practice. Right. And so the practice is the moment of sitting with a candle, a photo of somebody you admire, a teacher they recommend, or if you do attend temple or church or something like that, somebody you admire, look up to, maybe it's your ancestors. It could be anything. It's to get you to go to that place, right? To focus and eyes open. And it even says like there's the Tibetan book of the dead, right? But there's also the Tibetan book of the living and dying. Read that book. It's incredible. It goes through this entire process, but also the process of what happens in the afterlife and all kinds of crazy stuff for people that are interested in the Tibetan perspective on the afterlife. And it talks about how, we've kind of butchered this whole thing. We just get it completely wrong. And we just need to remove the boundaries, sit, focus on that one thing, and take that with us into our daily life.
I did try to do that. Like I actually do light a candle, just like a little tea light candle every time. And I have my meditation pillow, sit on that, have the Insight Timer, maybe some tea. But I did do the kind of like the half eyes open, like lower gaze and not like looking at anything specific, just kind of like looking vaguely, in an area. But then with the candle, I would have like this like light seared into my eyes for 15 minutes looking at it. And then I'd be trying to go to bed with this like light in my eyes. Chasing.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
funny you say that you do that, because another thing that Dzogchen describes is like widening your gaze.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's hard to explain this concept, but imagine that I'm looking at this microphone, but there's also a way to look at this microphone, but take in everything else that's here, right? And if you do that, it kind of takes you into that right state. But it also says like all this nonsense about you have to be so focused for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour and not break the meditation is nonsense. Because again, it's like, it gives you a sense of relief that like you're going to be in a meditative state sometimes, and you're going to be aware of the thoughts, and then you're going to identify with the thoughts, and that's okay. Just like gently bring yourself back and like be there again and step out, take a break. Like in the Tibetan book of Living and Dying, it's like, take a break, look away, look at the wall, refocus, come back to the candle, come back to the picture. And like, you know,
the Zen Center would do sitting meditations and then literally walk around the room and then sit back down and do more and then walk around. And it was just a way to like, recalibrate a little bit. But it's funny you mentioned the orientation, because I actually find that as like a good circuit breaker one. Like if you're really in a freak out mode, you're anxious, you're freaking out, the orientation of the world around you. I think I might have mentioned this before. I think they use it for people with anger management. Like, let's say you're just peak emotional state in a bad way. You literally say out loud what's around you. So painting, light, bottle, Pellegrino bottle, microphone, laptop.
Oh, I had a therapist that used to make me do that.
And you just do it until you like slow down and you orient yourself to like the physical surroundings and get out of your mind. And I find it's like a helpful circuit breaker if you're really going.
so what is it? It's trying to get you to really just stop the pattern that you were in.
A little bit of that, but more about like grounding yourself in your awareness. Like if you were going to sit down and meditate, you'd be like, okay, I feel the pressure of my knees against the carpet, and I'm settling in. I understand my breath. This is just like a quick way to be like, oh shit, I'm in a room. There's walls, there's a window, there's a dog barking, the microphone here, Steven's next to me. And then just by like saying it out loud, you kind of find that like each thing you name, you kind of calm down a little bit.
So, Steven, when you hear all this, do you look at it and go, okay, like the way you described your mornings and all that was so funny. Like, do you look at this and go, okay, this is interesting. There's something deeper here. Or do you look at it and go, okay, maybe there are some benefits here. Or do you just look at it and go, like not for me, I'd rather play the piano. But to that, I would also say, do you look at playing the piano as this therapeutic or meditative experience or spiritual experience or just soothing experience? Like, where do you take all this?
Yeah, I mean, music's always been meditative for me. I mean, I used to meditate. Like, it's like the stuff you guys say, like mostly I'm like, yeah, I know that. I remember the last time I meditated, actually. It was 2017. Yeah, I remember it was a very powerful experience. I did it for like 40 minutes straight, probably. And I used to always do the eyes open thing, actually.
Really?
When I did it. And I remember getting myself into like such a state of like, it almost felt like euphoria. And I came out of it and I was just like, oh my God, I have to break up with my girlfriend.
Oh no.
And I think that was literally the last time I ever meditated.
Wait, so that's why you stopped?
No.
No, why'd you stop? I'm curious.
I don't know. I just never did it again.
So you had a euphoric, very clear mind experience of 40 minutes.
It's just like too hard for me. It's just hard for me to not think. I don't know.
It's
hard
hard
to
for
think.
everybody.
But it's not. The goal is to
Yeah.
not think.
Yeah, I
It's just
know.
to watch the
meditate
thoughts.
for 10 minutes unless you don't have time, then do 20, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I got it. But like, I don't.
I think he intellectually gets the concept.
I think you intellectually get a lot of things. This is definitely one you probably understand really, really well, and you've done it. But I'm really curious, after getting those benefits, perhaps why did life just get in the way, or do you not see the benefits?
I don't know. I'm just like such a raging creature of habit. I'm just like really just super addictive personality. I've never been able to like fit it in my day.
Yeah.
I'm like really bad right now. I'm like such a dopamine junkie that I can't have like any like fractions of seconds like alone with my thoughts.
Hold on, you've been working on that.
Oh
quite a
yeah,
bit,
are we
though.
rich? Do you owe us money? Because you placed a bet it was like $100 every night. The phone isn't, if the phone is near your bed.
No, so I have been sleeping
Okay.
with the phone outside of my room completely.
Oh, wow.
It was really
I
sad.
thought we
that,
were owed money. Damn it.
no,
All right.
no,
Well, good
I've-
job. Good job.
Wouldn't mind covering dinner.
no, I'm really good at doing stuff like when I just have some like circuit breaker, like I just publicly like say I'm going to do this or I'm going to pay you money, and that's like good enough for me to kind of do stuff. But like without it, I'm almost like helpless on my own. But yeah, I haven't like slept much better though. Like I feel like I'm going through like stimulus withdrawal or something.
Dude, I think you would love not Surrender Experiment, Untethered Soul. There's a chapter called "Who Are You?" It's a phenomenal chapter, and he peels back the layers to find out who you are, and you're like, "Well, I'm Steven." And he goes, "Well, that's just your name. That's not who you are." You're like, "Okay, well, I'm a 38, 37-year-old male. I live in San Diego. I have a dog named Ziggy." Like, well, that's you now, but you were something different 5 years ago. That's not. And he keeps peeling it back until you get to who you really are. And so
I don't want to know that. That
no,
sounds
you
terrible.
do. You do.
No.
You don't want to know the
You
true
can
nature of reality, Stephen?
You consume a phenomenal amount of audio information. I think you can consume this book. In
Yeah,
like
why are you
3 days.
resisting? What's going on here?
Why are we forcing it on him?
Yeah. Is that the better question?
I don't really want to know what's in there.
I am a guru.
I mean, I'm almost done with the Eckhart Tolle book somebody gave me like
that
3
one's
years
not-
ago.
I don't
Which
know.
one?
It's so
I
dense. The
forgot
Power of
the name
Now.
of it. Yeah, Power of Now. That
It's
one.
so dense.
By
It's
almost, I mean,
It's
I've
good,
read about
but it's
40%.
Great
of it.
entry.
I don't think it's a great wrench at all. It's so dense.
It's dense.
It's a lot of
It's
stuff.
dense,
Like
but-
do you remember that? Do you remember
I
Doug
loved it.
Brackman? Did you ever go to Doug Brackman?
Yes, I went to Doug, and so many of my friends and business partners were using him that he referred me to the one that I went to for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Because there's too much
I mean,
conflict of interest.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the stuff in the book was from him. He ended up writing a book, right? Like my brother was like, "I'm reading this book right now. It's like interesting," and I looked at it and I was like, "Oh,
My old therapist.
okay." So my therapist, it like apparently got like kind of popular, but he's gone now. But yeah, he used to talk a lot about like it was very like, and he talked about like the Godhead and the mind and the past. It was just all like
I don't like when they apply too many definitions and bring too
That's what
much.
Michael
like,
Singer does so
well, he
well.
used to draw
Exactly.
stuff
It's
on a little
just- there's
pad.
no
He used to,
academic
like, here's an up arrow and a
language.
left arrow, and there's a chart. Here's where you are, and here. And I was like, oh, I found it like very informative and useful. I mean, I was a real. You think I'm a crazy person now? You should see me in like 2013. Like I was
Playing
real,
poker?
Like no, that was like fresh off like end of poker, end of girlfriend, different girlfriend. But like I was nuts. And
I'm really interested. I know you've been working on this whole dopamine thing, and I have to say, like, one of my personal greatest like benefits that I've ever gotten from meditation is simply that, like, just reducing my overactive response system by meditating. And that's why I'm curious, like, why, if you have a specific reason for not doing this as your accountability thing. Could be interesting, just putting it out there. I think you would probably gain more from meditation even than some of the other hacks that are out there. And I'll say this anecdotally. I've retraced and I look back in my like journals and I look back at my annual review that I do every year, and then I plan the next year. And the years in which I'm most consistent with, or the quarters even that I'm most consistent with meditating, are night and day the happiest, most successful, most high achievement times of my life. And if I'm in a stressful time of my life, I'm able to navigate it and not view it as some catastrophe. And I always have retraced that back to when I've had a consistent meditation practice.
That's interesting. So, I went to therapy for like 10 years pretty frequently. My therapist retired and I've yet to find the new
Wow.
go. The new go. I don't have my Wendy Rhodes anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway,
the one we shared.
yeah. How funny is that? You walk into the waiting room of your therapist and out walks one of your friends. You're like, you, like the Spider-Man meme. Like, you also go to therapy? You go here? And then like, I'm like, so, Steven? And she's like, I can't say anything in response to that. I'm like, oh, okay, good. That was a good test. Anyway.
That was a tough test.
Yeah. It was a tough one. But anyway, whenever I would be off balance, the first thing she would do, like, well, are you working out and are you meditating? It was like consistently. And I was like, do I pay you $180 an hour just to check in to make sure I'm doing those two things?
Yeah.
And she's like, basically, if you're not doing those two things, like, get out of here.
I
Like,
said this on the
do those things.
dopamine
Yeah.
episode. I'm like, eat, sleep, and meditate. If I don't do those, I'm a mess. It's like you got to
Who
do the
doesn't-
basics.
wait, who doesn't eat?
Well, I don't sometimes.
You don't eat?
You've ever
Yeah,
gotten
like
so
your
stressed
fast
where you
goes too
don't?
long. You forget to eat.
Oh,
for
I do
sure.
that all the time, but then eventually I do eat.
Well, but that time of not eating
course.
is suffering. It sucks. If you're not eating, consistently right, good, healthy meals, like if you eat shit,
Okay,
You
that's
kinda suffer.
Yeah, that's different, I guess.
yeah, it's like eating well, sleeping well, and exercise.
That's cool. You measured that, and you saw. Looking back at it, you
It's
saw it.
always
Yeah, I
it
do
always
know those
stands
things
out.
right now. I was told the bear markets were supposed to be the time of boredom and recovery, and
Yeah,
Yeah, they're not
It's
really,
almost
are
as bad.
they?
It's almost as bad as the bull was.
Oh God.
It's more whiplash.
I just replaced like shit coins with like macro.
All right, should we? Any last things we should cover before? we
Yeah,
wrap this up?
one final thing. I have to. He's my guru. Alan Watts for me has been probably my greatest teacher. I mean, if you asked who would
Do you
like
love
to have,
Alan Watts?
Oh, Alan Watts. Oh yeah. No, I don't have that thing with Jordan Peterson. I very deeply
I do
admire
want to
Jordan
see
Peterson.
your tier list sometime.
What is that? Oh, tier list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just we have like a board here. I'm gonna put all
Yeah.
like the gurus up.
I'll put Elon at the top just for you.
I know you will,
No.
and I'll be like, wrong.
Elon's just cool. I want to have a beer with Elon. That's about
I would
There's
have a
plenty
beer
to
with
talk
Elon.
about.
It-
There's plenty
it-
to talk
and-
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems very cool.
For the record, if Elon were here and we were interviewing him, I would have a great time. I have a lot of questions
Good.
for him.
Good.
I wouldn't be like, Elon, you
I
suck.
I'll try to not tell him that you compared his company to Cardano.
Look, the metaphor is a little more nuanced than that, but
I'll keep it to myself because it would ruin the interview.
he shows Dogecoin. Okay.
Doge is awesome.
Uh,
Okay, so back to Alan. Mr. Watts has a very unique approach to meditation. I'll get the link over to Sly to include in the show notes. I think that my alfalfa is to throw on some noise canceling headphones, get in the right place, right time, where you can dedicate 20 minutes to this. Throw this, it's on YouTube. Throw this on and see where it takes you, and let me know what you thought of it in the Discord. I'm very curious because I have done this with people in person where they're like, I've never meditated. I'm like, oh, hold on. I go get my Bose or some noise canceling headphones. I'm like, go to this room, sit, listen to this, come back 20, 30 minutes when you're ready and tell me. And they come out with like their eyes just like,
Is there a title to the video?
it's just Alan Watts guided meditation.
Okay. Cool.
Has a beautiful soundscape to it. He guides it a little bit, talks throughout it, but it's just a lot of sound and a little bit, just enough guidance. And he has a different approach to the whole thing. It's phenomenal. So, yeah, perfect.
I feel like you should do guided meditations.
I've had a lot of,
Yeah.
I've had
You
some
get a,
requests
you
for
get a
that.
goatee voice.
That could be
for it.
like you're like selling feet pics side hustle, but like you just
Why don't we just,
meditation.
yeah, that could be an extension of the pod. How about that? A little channel, guided meditation channel on YouTube. Yeah.
I like that.
I'm down. Yeah, curious what other people also do, use, how-tos. Please share with the community. The more brains on this and experience perspective shares on this, the better. And yeah, hop in the Discord and let's continue the conversation there. Love you guys.
Bye.
Peace.